Respect is one of the most fragile possessions a person can hold. It cannot be demanded and it cannot be bought. It is either earned through steadiness of character or lost the moment self-control slips. Nothing undermines respect more quickly than anger. The instant we surrender to irritation, the authority we hope to project dissolves, and others see not strength but weakness. In every environment, the test appears. At work, a colleague interrupts before you finish your thought. You feel dismissed. A manager waves away your contribution. You feel belittled. The temptation is to respond sharply, to reclaim standing by force of voice. Yet what follows? The room may fall silent, but it is not respect that fills the silence. It is unease. Those who might have admired your ideas instead remember the edge in your tone. The credibility you wanted to reinforce is eroded, not strengthened. The same pattern unfolds at home. A sibling mocks, a parent criticizes, a partner speaks in irritation. These are the people whose respect we value most. Yet anger risks shattering it in an instant. A harsh reply might quiet the moment, but beneath the surface it corrodes trust. The one who cannot govern themselves in private life will not be respected in public life. Even strangers test our dignity. On the road, the careless driver cuts you off. In the store, someone mutters a rude remark. Online, insults appear without face or name. Each moment tempts us to prove ourselves by striking back. But every time we take the bait, we show not strength but dependence. We reveal that our composure is at the mercy of others' behavior. Respect does not grow from such dependence. The paradox is stark. People often chase respect through anger, believing that force commands it. But anger does not command, it betrays. It betrays insecurity, wounded pride, lack of discipline. Others may fall silent in its presence, but deep down, they do not admire it. Fear may yield obedience, but only self-command wins genuine respect. Calm in the face of provocation unsettles people far more than shouting ever could. True respect belongs to those who master themselves. The one who remains steady when insulted gains more authority than the one who lashes out. The one who does not bow to provocation shows a kind of strength that cannot be faked. Respect is born not from domination, but from composure, from the quiet assurance that your dignity is beyond another's reach. And so the real question is not simply how to avoid anger, but how to live in a way that commands respect without needing to demand it. This is where Marcus Aurelius' philosophy enters with clarity. He would ask, when provoked, insulted, or dismissed, does losing control elevate you or diminish you? Does irritation secure respect or destroy it? To answer, we must turn to the roots of anger itself and see why it has such power to rob us of dignity. Only by understanding its origins can we see why respect slips away so quickly and how a Stoic approach can preserve it. Why does anger ignite so strongly when respect is denied? Stoicism teaches that anger is not a random storm, but a judgment. We believe we have been wronged. Nowhere is this judgment sharper than when dignity feels attacked. To understand why anger rises in these moments, we must examine the hidden roots of why respect matters so deeply to the human mind. The first root is expectation of recognition. People naturally expect to be treated with a baseline of fairness and acknowledgement. In daily life, we invest effort, words, and care. When these are ignored or dismissed, the expectation of recognition collapses. The mind interprets this as disrespect, and the wound quickly becomes anger. Stoicism reveals the trap. We build inner peace on something unstable, the reactions of others. When they fail to provide respect, our peace falls with it. The second root is injury to ego. A sharp remark, a dismissive glance, or a sarcastic tone cuts because it brushes against pride. We want others to see our worth. When they do not, the ego recoils as if attacked. The insult is not powerful by itself, it gains power because we secretly crave affirmation. Anger then becomes the defense of wounded pride. But as Marcus Aurelius would note, if our worth depends on another's opinion, it is fragile from the start. The third root is the link between respect and status. In groups, families, offices, communities, respect signals standing. To be respected is to be seen as valuable. To feel disrespected is to fear loss of position. Anger often arises not from the insult itself, but from the anxiety that others may now view us as weak or lesser. The Stoic response is clear. True status comes from virtue, not from shifting opinions. If respect is grounded in inner character, it cannot be stolen by careless words. The fourth root is the illusion of control over others' regard. We believe we can force respect, that if we speak louder or strike harder, others will honor us. Yet this is false. People may submit out of fear, but fear is not respect. When reality exposes our lack of control, when someone mocks us publicly or ignores us privately, the illusion breaks. Anger floods in to fill the void. The Stoic view offers release. Only our actions are within our command, not the esteem others give. The fifth root is cultural conditioning. Many are raised to equate respect with obedience and deference. When someone challenges them, they read it as an assault on identity. The reflex is anger because culture has tied dignity to dominance. Yet respect built on dominance always wavers. When dominance is lost, respect evaporates. Stoicism instead points to respect earned through self-command and fairness, qualities that cannot be taken by force. At root, anger at disrespect comes from this fragile structure: expectation that others will affirm us, ego craving validation, fear of lost status, illusion of control, and habits inherited from culture. Each makes our dignity dependent on what lies outside our control. When that dependence is exposed, anger rises to defend what we feel slipping away. But here Stoicism makes the essential point: true respect cannot be given or taken by others. It is grounded in our ability to govern ourselves. If anger erupts whenever respect is withheld, it shows we do not yet own our dignity. If we remain steady, even when others withhold recognition, we prove that respect lives within us first. The next step, then, is to see how Marcus Aurelius faced such moments, not by demanding respect from others, but by building a character that commanded it silently, through calm, fairness, and self-command. Marcus Aurelius' secret is not that he avoided conflict, but that he practiced discipline in the middle of it. Imagine him in today's world, not an emperor in a palace, but a leader in an office, a parent at home, a human among humans. Respect would not come from his title, but from his ability to remain unmoved when others lost control. When a colleague speaks rudely, his response would not be silence born of weakness, but silence chosen by strength. He would remind himself, "Their words touch only sound, not my character. What they are reveals itself. What I am remains in my control." To those watching, such composure would carry more weight than any heated reply. Silence, when chosen from principle, commands respect because it proves mastery over pride. When disrespected in public, he would not defend ego with sharpness. He would defend dignity with steadiness. Marcus would see that losing composure gives the insult power, while calm robs it of effect. The real danger lies not in what is said, but in yielding to it. By refusing to be moved, he would demonstrate that dignity depends on reason, not recognition. This steadiness unsettles aggressors because it denies them victory. The steadiness unsettles aggressors because it denies them victory. It also wins the quiet respect of those who witness the restraint. In daily irritations, traffic delays, careless mistakes, unfair blame, Marcus would step back from impulse. He would ask, "Does this hinder my integrity, my reason, my justice? If not, it is nothing." Most annoyances shrink when measured against virtue. The delay does not touch honesty. The insult does not touch courage. The blame does not touch fairness. By framing irritation against the scale of virtue, Marcus would transform the moment from poison into practice. His method was never suppression, but transformation. Suppression hides emotion. Transformation reshapes it. Every provocation becomes a mirror. What do I control? What virtue is needed here? How do I act in line with reason? Enemies become teachers. Insults become training weights, and irritations become exercises in command. Where others see an obstacle, the Stoic sees opportunity to strengthen the will. This approach redefines respect. Many imagine respect comes from force, from quick retorts, from dominating others in argument. Marcus shows the opposite. Respect is won not by noise, but by calm. Authority flows not from raising one's voice, but from proving no voice can shake you. People may fear anger, but they respect composure. They may resist orders, but they admire discipline. In the modern workplace, such composure stands out. The leader who remains calm during conflict gains credibility. The colleague who does not retaliate against insult earns quiet admiration. In the home, the parent who models patience under stress wins a respect louder than lectures. In public life, the citizen who keeps dignity when mocked demonstrates strength without hostility. Across contexts, the principle is the same. Discipline in conflict commands respect more effectively than dominance ever could. Marcus Aurelius' discipline was not abstract, it was daily training, reminding himself at dawn that the day would bring irritation, insult, and ignorance, and that his task was to meet them with reason. In this way, he stripped anger of its power and built a character that others could not ignore. Respect was not granted by his title alone, it was earned by his steadiness. And this is the lesson. Respect is not secured by demanding it, but by embodying it. Calm in the face of provocation is itself a declaration of strength. To practice this discipline is to live in such a way that others cannot help but recognize authority. Not authority over them, but authority over oneself. Marcus Aurelius' Stoic position rests on a few unshakable pillars. These are not abstract doctrines, but tools for daily life, weapons against anger, and foundations of genuine respect. Each one clarifies why dignity can be preserved in the midst of provocation, and why composure is stronger than retaliation. The first pillar is the recognition that only some things are ours. Others' actions, words, and judgments are beyond our command. What belongs to us are our own choices, our own interpretations, and our own responses. To fight against what is outside our reach is to waste life. When insulted, Marcus would remind himself that the words belong to the speaker, not to him. The sting exists only if he takes ownership of it. By separating what lies within control from what does not, he defends his dignity where it truly resides. Another pillar is the awareness of impermanence. Every insult, every irritation is brief. The person who mocks you will soon vanish, just as you yourself will pass. To rage at words that dissolve in time is to treat smoke as stone. Anger dishonors reason by inflating what is temporary into something permanent. Marcus held firmly to the perspective that life is fleeting and that the noise of today will soon fade into silence. This awareness shrinks provocation to its true size and frees the mind to remain calm. A further foundation lies in the understanding of human nature. People act from ignorance, from fear, from desire, from habit. To expect flawless behavior is to demand perfection from imperfection. The wise person accepts this as one accepts the weather. Sometimes calm, sometimes storm. Just as we do not curse the rain for being wet, we should not rage at people for being inconsistent or thoughtless. Seeing human weakness as natural allows us to respond with patience rather than anger. Respect is preserved by treating others not as ideal beings, but as fallible companions in a common struggle. Another pillar is the conviction that virtue is the only true good. Respect is not gained by forcing others to obey or by silencing them with power. It comes from living justly, acting with courage, showing moderation, and practicing wisdom. Anger violates all four virtues. It is unjust in its judgments, cowardly in its loss of control, excessive in its expression, and foolish in its outcome. Calm protects them all. By making virtue the measure of worth, Marcus showed that self-command is the surest path to respect. Finally, there is the image of the inner citadel. The mind, guided by reason, is a fortress no insult can breach unless we open the gate. If we allow every word to enter, the fortress crumbles from within. But if we guard it with discipline, it remains untouchable. Marcus returned to this image repeatedly, reminding himself that the world can hurl insults, misfortune, and pain, but cannot touch the inner core unless consent is given. Within that citadel lies true freedom and the deepest source of authority. Together, these principles form a shield. Not a shield that blocks others, but one that prevents us from wounding ourselves. For the Stoic truth is sharp. Anger harms the angry more than the offender. It undermines dignity, weakens judgment, and strips respect from the very person who seeks it most. Calm, by contrast, turns conflict into training, insult into practice, and disrespect into a stage upon which self-command shines. These pillars explain why Marcus Aurelius could face insult without losing composure and why his example continues to command respect. They prepare us for the next step, to see how these foundations become lessons for our own lives, guiding us not just to understand Stoicism, but to live it daily. From Marcus' reflections, several lessons rise clearly. These are not abstract principles written for bookshelves, but practical tools designed for the struggles of daily life. They remind us that respect, calm, and dignity are never accidents. They are the result of preparation and discipline. When practiced, these lessons transform anger from a reflex into an opportunity for strength. The first lesson is to expect imperfection. Marcus advised beginning each morning with a reminder. People will interrupt, people will insult, people will dismiss. If we enter the day imagining flawless behavior, every slight shocks us. But if we expect imperfection, we meet it with readiness rather than surprise. A driver cuts us off, a colleague ignores our contribution, a friend forgets a promise. These no longer feel like personal betrayals, but ordinary events. By lowering expectation to the reality of human weakness, we preserve calm. Respect flows to the one who is unshaken by flaws they already foresaw. The second lesson is to separate fact from judgment. A colleague's sharp words are only vibrations of air. The meaning "they disrespected me" is supplied by the mind. Marcus reminds us that the raw event is always smaller than the story we add to it. Remove the judgment and the sting dissolves. When someone raises their voice, the fact is sound. The judgment is injury. If we choose not to label it as disrespect, we remain free. This shift requires discipline, but it protects dignity from being tossed around by every careless remark. The third lesson is to value self-command above victory. In conflict, the temptation is always to win, to prove the other wrong. Winning may silence the other person, but it does not guarantee respect. Mastering anger, however, proves strength of character. Marcus shows that true victory is not in overpowering others, but in demonstrating you cannot be overpowered by yourself. The one who restrains their temper shows more authority than the one who dominates an argument. People forget who won the quarrel, but they remember who kept composure. The fourth lesson is to see insults as training. Marcus turned every irritation into practice. A rude remark is a weight to lift in the gym of the mind. A delay is a test of patience. A dismissal is a rehearsal for steadiness. Each annoyance, instead of being poison, becomes an exercise in command. When we adopt this view, the very things that used to make us angry become the raw material of discipline. Become the discipline, become the discipline, become the discipline. Over time, these repetitions build strength, just as muscles grow under resistance. Respect gathers around the person who uses adversity to refine, not to collapse. The fifth lesson is to anchor in virtue. Marcus repeatedly asked, "What does justice demand? What does courage require? What does wisdom say?" These questions pull the mind out of emotion and back into principle. Anger demands reaction, but virtue demands reason. Justice prevents cruelty. Courage resists cowardice. Temperance avoids excess, and wisdom shows the path forward. If we let virtue, not mood, guide action, we act in ways that command genuine respect. Virtue is admired even by those who do not practice it themselves. Together, these lessons form a way of life. They shift the focus from fighting the world to shaping oneself. Instead of expecting others to behave perfectly, we prepare for imperfection. Instead of treating words as wounds, we strip them of false weight. Instead of measuring success by domination, we measure it by self-command. Instead of cursing insult, we use it as training. Instead of chasing approval, we anchor in virtue. The transformation is quiet but profound. Anger loses its grip. Disrespect loses its power. Life becomes less about defense and more about practice. Respect is not demanded through force, but drawn naturally toward the one who embodies steadiness. Others may not always agree with such a person, but they cannot ignore the authority of their composure. Marcus Aurelius' reflections remind us that the path to dignity lies not in controlling others, but in training the self. These lessons are not meant for rare moments, but for daily practice. In the office, in the family, in the street, and in solitude. The more consistently they are lived, the more naturally respect follows. And this prepares the ground for the final question. How do these lessons translate into our world today, where conflict and irritation seem louder than ever? The answer lies in application, in turning principle into habit until calm becomes second nature. Why does Stoicism matter now, in an age so different from Marcus's Rome? Because the roots of human conflict have not changed. The tools are new, the pace is faster, the noise is louder, but the human mind still falters in the same ways. Irritation, pride, and the hunger for respect remain as urgent as ever. Social media amplifies insult. What once might have been a private remark is now broadcast to thousands, preserved and repeated endlessly. A careless comment online can stir anger far beyond its true weight. Offices magnify rivalry. Promotions, recognition, and credit for work become battlegrounds, where disrespect is felt not only in words, but in overlooked efforts and subtle dismissals. Families repeat cycles of criticism. Old patterns of judgment and comparison echo from one generation to the next. The environments differ, but the mind's vulnerabilities remain the same. Modern culture often equates respect with dominance. The louder voice, the sharper retort, the quicker comeback is mistaken for strength. In politics, entertainment, and even personal relationships, victory in argument is confused with authority. But this respect is shallow. It lasts only until someone louder enters the room. A reputation built on intimidation collapses the moment intimidation fails. What people fear, they do not truly respect. Stoicism offers the deeper alternative. It insists that respect begins not with controlling others, but with commanding oneself. The person who does not lose composure holds a kind of authority that cannot be stolen. People may not always agree with such a person, but they cannot ignore them. They may provoke, but deep down they admire the one who refuses to be shaken. Calm is more unsettling than anger, because it reveals mastery where others expect reaction. In a society fractured, reactive, and driven by outrage, the one who remains steady becomes rare, and therefore powerful. Calm is rebellion against chaos. Steadiness is authority in a world addicted to reaction. To keep composure in an age of noise is not withdrawal, but leadership. It shows that integrity can survive in the very places most surrendered to impulse. This is why Stoicism is not ancient theory but urgent practice. It gives tools for daily life. Tools that strip insults of their sting, reveal the limits of control, and remind us of what endures. A stranger's online attack is seen as sound, not as judgment. A colleague's unfair criticism becomes an exercise in patience. A family quarrel becomes training in compassion. A traffic jam becomes an opportunity to practice restraint. The same discipline applies in boardrooms, in living rooms, and on crowded streets. The relevance of Stoicism today lies in its refusal to chase respect through the empty currency of dominance. Instead, it roots respect in character. A person who practices justice in decision, moderation in desire, courage in adversity, and wisdom in judgment earns respect even in silence. Their authority does not need to be announced, it is recognized naturally. In this way, Stoicism reverses the cultural illusion that louder means stronger. It proves that strength is found in mastery, not in noise. We can see the evidence in modern examples. In workplaces, the leader who does not panic in crisis gains trust. In families, the parent who responds with patience rather than anger sets the tone for the household. In public discourse, the voice that does not descend into outrage carries more weight than endless shouting. Each case demonstrates the same principle. Composure commands respect where force cannot. Stoicism matters now because it prepares us for a world that will not become calmer on its own. The volume of conflict will continue to rise. Outrage will remain profitable. Disrespect will remain common. What changes is our ability to meet these conditions with steadiness rather than surrender. By practicing Stoic discipline, we choose to be citizens of the inner citadel rather than captives of the crowd. The question that remains is how to make this discipline practical each day. It is not enough to admire Marcus Aurelius's reflections. We must translate them into habits of our own. And this leads us to the final step. To see Stoicism not as distant wisdom, but as a daily path that protects dignity, commands respect, and offers freedom in the midst of turmoil. To never be angry or bothered by anyone is not to retreat from life. It is not withdrawal or apathy. It is to live fully, but on your own terms. It is to face insult without surrender, to endure irritation without losing dignity, to move through conflict with reason as guide. This posture is not about detachment from responsibility, but about engagement without loss of self. To remain steady does not mean to stop caring. It means to care rightly, to order your energy toward what is within your control and refuse to be enslaved by what is not. Marcus Aurelius' secret is no mystery formula. It is daily discipline practiced in ordinary situations. Each morning, he reminded himself to expect imperfection. He prepared for interruption, disrespect, and carelessness. By anticipating these, he removed the element of surprise. What shocked others left him steady, because the mind already rehearsed the reality of human frailty. When you know in advance that someone will speak harshly, cut you off, or disappoint you, their behavior loses its sting. You have disarmed anger before it rises. The next discipline is to separate judgment from fact. Words are only sounds, actions only movements. The insult has no power until you grant it meaning. A careless remark cannot wound unless your mind interprets it as injury. Epictetus said it simply, "People are disturbed not by things, but by their judgments about things." If you train yourself to pause before judgment, irritation turns into a passing event, not a storm within your chest. Then comes the positive anchor of virtue. When anger tempts you, ask what justice, courage, moderation, and wisdom demand. Do not merely suppress anger. Redirect it. Justice asks, what is fair here? Courage asks, what is the honorable response? Moderation asks, how much reaction is enough? Wisdom asks, what action leads to peace rather than more conflict? By turning to these four cardinal virtues, your response is no longer reactive but principled. Finally, guard the fortress of the mind. Marcus called it the citadel of reason. No army, no insult, no rumor can breach it unless you open the gate yourself. If you treat your attention as sacred, you will not hand it over to every provocation. Respect flows not from loud demands, but from this unshakable discipline. People sense the difference between someone who blusters and someone who stands quietly, unshaken. In a noisy world, silence can be the loudest power. People accustomed to constant reaction are unsettled by composure. In a chaotic society, calm is the highest authority. Outrage is common, steadiness is rare. Those who master themselves become figures of influence because they reveal strength where others reveal weakness. This is not about dominance over others, but sovereignty over the self. To rule yourself is the only true empire. The invitation of Marcus Aurelius is clear. Command respect, not by conquering others, but by mastering yourself. Every insult resisted, every irritation transformed, every judgment corrected builds a life that cannot be easily shaken. And in that steadiness lies a power greater than anger could ever provide. Even if no crowd applauds you, your own conscience will. That quiet approval is worth more than any fleeting victory in an argument. Respect that comes through fear fades with time. Respect that comes through noise disappears when the room grows quiet. But respect earned through calm and virtue endures. People may not always agree with you. They may criticize, mock, or provoke. Yet deep down, they cannot help but admire the one who does not surrender composure. This form of respect is subtle, but it is the only kind that lasts. The relevance of Stoicism today lies in this shift. Modern culture measures authority in volume, speed, and dominance. But Stoicism measures it in restraint, patience, and reason. The louder the world becomes, the more powerful quiet integrity appears. By practicing these lessons, you become not merely a student of philosophy, but a living example of it. Each encounter becomes a test. Will you be dragged into the noise, or will you hold the line of reason? To never be angry or bothered is not to ignore life's challenges, but to meet them from a place of freedom. It is to recognize that while others may insult or dismiss, only you decide whether those insults enter the fortress of the mind. It is to see clearly that anger harms the angry more than the offender, while calm preserves both dignity and respect. To walk away unshaken is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. To walk away unshaken is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. If this reflection has given you clarity, consider joining us here on Sophoria, where ancient wisdom meets modern struggle. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe with the bell turned on to continue the practice together. Each step you take in mastering yourself strengthens not only your life, but also the communities around you. And in a time where anger dominates, the choice to remain calm may be the most radical act of all.